The land of Israel, particularly its capital, Jerusalem, has long been a significant site in the narratives of the world's major religions. This video will explore the profound historical and religious implications of this nation, its impact on Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and recent developments that suggest a fulfillment of end-times prophecies. A particular focus will be given to the potential reconstruction of the Third Temple and the controversies and prophecies surrounding it. Israel's place in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Israel, more specifically Jerusalem, has held a deep-rooted position in the faiths of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism throughout history. Each religion has numerous connections to the city, making it a significant spiritual and historical epicenter. In Judaism, Jerusalem is revered as the site of the First and Second Temples, both essential to the faith's practice and identity. The First Temple, built by King Solomon in the 10th century BC, housed the Ark of the Covenant. Its destruction by Babylonians in 586 BC was a devastating loss. Subsequently, the Second Temple, erected in 516 BC, became Judaism's central place of worship until its destruction by the Romans in 70 AD. These events profoundly shaped Jewish history and led to a long-standing desire to rebuild a Third Temple. For Christians, Jerusalem holds paramount importance due to its connection with Jesus Christ. It is the city where Jesus spent the last week of his life, often referred to as the Passion Week. This includes key events such as the Last Supper, crucifixion, and resurrection, pivotal moments in Christian faith and doctrine. Furthermore, according to the New Testament, Jerusalem will play a crucial role in end-time events, marking the city with eschatological significance. Meanwhile, for Muslims, Jerusalem is the third holiest site after Mecca and Medina. It is home to Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, where Prophet Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven during the night journey. The city also features in Islamic eschatology, particularly in prophecies regarding the Day of Judgment. Despite its significance to all three religions, the control over and access to Jerusalem has been a contentious issue, causing centuries of conflict. The current political state of Jerusalem reflects this conflict, with the Old City divided into Jewish, Muslim, Armenian, and Christian quarters. Today, the potential construction of a third Jewish temple on the Temple Mount, currently the site of Al-Aqsa Mosque, has stirred global tension. For some, the move suggests a literal fulfillment of end-time prophecies across the three faiths. These prophecies, along with their interpretations and implications, form the bedrock of our subsequent discussions in this video. The destruction of the First and Second Temples and the desire for a third. The destruction of the First and Second Temples in Jerusalem constitutes two of the most impactful events in Jewish history. These temples were not merely buildings, but represented the religious, political, and cultural identity of the Jewish people. Their loss and the persistent longing for a third temple reveal the deep-seated significance of these structures in Jewish faith and life. The First Temple, built by King Solomon around 957 BC, was a magnificent structure that held the Ark of the Covenant. It was seen as the dwelling place of God, a symbol of divine presence among the people of Israel. Its destruction in 586 BC by the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II was a catastrophic event, leading to the exile of the Jewish people and the beginning of the Jewish diaspora. This marked a turning point in Jewish history, a period of profound loss, and the beginning of an intense longing for restoration. 70 years later, the Persian king Cyrus allowed the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. The Second Temple, completed around 516 BC, was the heart of Jewish religious life for nearly 6 centuries. This temple was expanded and beautified by Herod the Great in the 1st century BC. However, it too met a tragic end when it was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD during the siege of Jerusalem. This event led to another dispersion of the Jews and marked the beginning of a long period without a central place of worship. The loss of both temples left an indelible mark on the Jewish psyche. The Western Wall, a remnant of the Second Temple, has since become a sacred site for prayer and mourning the loss of the temples. Despite the passage of centuries, the desire for the reconstruction of a third temple persists among some segments of Judaism. This aspiration, deeply embedded in religious beliefs, is also propelled by various end-time prophecies that forecast the construction of a third temple before the coming of the Messiah. However, the potential construction of a third temple is steeped in controversy, given the site's shared religious significance and its current occupation by Islamic structures, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. The intense interfaith and geopolitical complexities surrounding this issue make the prospect of building a third temple a potential flashpoint, with reverberations that could impact the entire world. Recent steps towards the construction of the third temple. In recent years, several steps have been taken by certain religious and political groups within Israel that suggest movement towards the construction of a third temple. These actions, while controversial, are seen by some as fulfilling biblical prophecies associated with the end times. Among the significant steps is the breeding of a red heifer, a ritual animal whose ashes are required for the purification of the Jewish people according to Numbers 19:1-10 in the Torah. The red heifer must be completely unblemished, without any physical defects, and never subjected to a yoke. Such a creature is extremely rare, and its existence is considered a prerequisite for the construction of a third temple. In 2018, the Temple Institute, a religious organization dedicated to every aspect of the Holy Temple of Jerusalem, announced the birth of a certified red heifer, fueling speculations about the impending construction of a third temple. In addition, there has been an increase in efforts towards the training of Kohanim, priests, for temple service. The Temple Institute, along with other similar organizations, has established schools to train descendants of the ancient priestly class to perform temple rituals. These include instructing them in the complex rules regarding temple sacrifices and rituals, which have not been performed in over 2,000 years. The training of Kohanim signifies the practical preparations for reinstating the temple services. Plans for constructing the temple and its altar are also being developed. Architectural blueprints, including detailed 3D computer models of the Third Temple, have been created by the Temple Institute. A massive cornerstone intended for the Third Temple has been quarried and prepared. These actions are seen by some as tangible progress towards the construction of a Third Temple, which, according to certain interpretations of biblical, Islamic, and Judaic prophecies, is a significant sign of the end times. The steps taken are not without their detractors, both within and outside Israel, due to the political and religious sensitivity of the Temple Mount, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock currently stand. Yet the actions are undeniably propelling discussions and concerns about what this could mean for the future, the prophecy of the end times, and the Antichrist. The construction of the Third Temple is intimately linked to end times prophecies across Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. For some, these recent actions and developments are significant signs that the end times, as foretold in religious scriptures, are approaching. Central to these prophecies is the figure known as the Antichrist in Christianity and Al-Masih ad-Dajjal in Islam. In Christian eschatology, the Antichrist is a figure who will appear during the end times, deceiving many into straying from the faith and instigating conflict and chaos. The Book of Daniel, 2 Thessalonians, and the Book of Revelation contain prophecies about this figure and the turmoil he will cause. Some interpretations suggest that the Antichrist will emerge following the construction of the Third Temple. The second epistle to the Thessalonians, for instance, mentions a man of sin who will sit in the temple of God and declare himself to be God. On the other hand, Islamic eschatology introduces Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, a deceptive figure analogous to the Christian Antichrist. The Hadith literature describes Dajjal as a great deceiver who will test the faith of Muslims before the Day of Judgment. Although there's no explicit mention of the Third Temple in Islamic eschatology, the potential construction of the temple and the resulting upheaval could be seen by some as setting the stage for Dajjal's arrival. Within Jewish eschatology, the construction of the Third Temple is associated with the coming of the Messiah and the ushering in of a messianic age of peace and monotheism. However, the Jewish faith does not have a concept of an Antichrist figure like in Christianity or Islam. The overlapping and diverging prophecies within these faiths create a complex, potentially volatile mix of beliefs and expectations. The recent developments towards the building of a third temple thus incite anticipation and fear as they seem to resonate with these prophetic narratives of the end times. It's important to note, however, that these interpretations vary widely within and between religious groups, and many people within these faiths do not interpret the prophecies literally or may not believe that these events are imminent. The rediscovery of the Pool of Siloam and its significance. The Pool of Siloam, an ancient water source in Jerusalem, is another pivotal site connecting current events to biblical prophecies. In Christian tradition, it is where Jesus healed a blind man, as narrated in the Gospel of John. In Jewish tradition, it is associated with the water libation ceremony during the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. The rediscovery of this pool and its relevance to the end times prophecies thus merits examination. The Pool of Siloam was lost to time until 2004, when it was accidentally discovered during the construction of a sewer pipe. Excavations led by the Israel Antiquities Authority revealed a monumental pool from the Second Temple period. The pool is located outside the walls of the Old City of Jerusalem, near the intersection of the TERRIFIES and Kidron valleys. For some, the unearthing of this historical and religious site is part of the fulfillment of prophecies and a sign of the coming end times. The Pool of Siloam is tied to the Feast of Tabernacles, one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals in Judaism, when the Israelites would travel to the temple in Jerusalem. During this feast, a unique ceremony called the water libation took place. Priests would draw water from the Pool of Siloam, carry it up to the temple, and pour it onto the altar. This ceremony was seen as a plea for rainfall, essential for the forthcoming agricultural season. Some groups in Israel, such as the Temple Mount Faithful, see the rediscovery of the Pool of Siloam as a sign to reinstate the water libation ceremony, a ritual not practiced since the destruction of the Second Temple. These groups have started to reenact this ceremony annually during the Feast of Tabernacles, furthering their readiness for the potential construction of a third temple. Like the steps towards building the third temple, the discovery of the Pool of Siloam and the renewed water libation ceremony are seen by some as fulfilling biblical prophecies, such as those found in Zechariah 14. However, interpretations vary widely, and these views are not universally held among followers of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. Notwithstanding, these developments add to the complex tapestry of religious beliefs and historical events surrounding Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and the possible construction of a third temple, the Feast of Tabernacles and its relevance to the end times prophecies. The Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, is a 7-day Jewish festival that takes place 5 days after Yom Kippur. It is a joyous celebration that commemorates the Israelites' 40-year period of wandering in the desert after their exodus from Egypt, during which they lived in temporary shelters, or Sukkot. The feast also marks the end of the agricultural year, serving as a time to give thanks for the harvest. In the context of the temple, Sukkot was one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals during which the Jewish people were required to appear before the Lord in Jerusalem. During the feast, numerous sacrifices were offered, and the previously mentioned water libation ceremony took place, where water drawn from the Pool of Siloam was poured onto the altar. Sukkot has deep eschatological significance within both Judaism and Christianity. In Judaism, Sukkot is seen as a foreshadowing of the Messianic age. Jewish tradition holds that when the Messiah comes, all nations will make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to celebrate Sukkot at the rebuilt temple, symbolizing universal peace under the sovereignty of God. This idea is rooted in the prophecies of Zechariah 14, which describes a future time when all nations will come to Jerusalem to worship the King and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. In Christian eschatology, some interpretations see Sukkot as symbolic of God's sheltering presence during the end times tribulation and the 1000-year reign of Christ, often referred to as the Millennial Kingdom. This interpretation stems from Revelation 21:3, which says that God's dwelling will be with humanity in the New Jerusalem, a concept parallel to the temporary dwellings of Sukkot and God's presence with the Israelites in the wilderness. Given these prophecies, the recent efforts to re-establish the rituals of Sukkot, including the water libation ceremony, are viewed by some as steps towards the fulfillment of end-times prophecies. These events have stoked anticipation, debate, and controversy, serving as another instance of modern developments seemingly intertwining with biblical prophecy. As always, interpretations and beliefs about these matters vary greatly among different groups within each faith. The concept of Armageddon in the Book of Revelation. The term Armageddon is one of the most well-known and frequently referenced concepts associated with end-times prophecies. Originating from the Book of Revelation in the New Testament of the Bible, Armageddon has become a universal symbol of apocalyptic devastation and conflict. The term has been used widely in pop culture and media to depict a world-ending event or a catastrophic battle. In the Book of Revelation, Armageddon is described as the location of a great and final battle between the forces of good and evil at the end of times. The word itself is believed to come from the Hebrew Har Megiddo, which translates to Mountain of Megiddo. Megiddo is an actual place in northern Israel, known for its historical and strategic importance as a battleground throughout the centuries. Revelation 16:16 states, "Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon." Following this, the passage describes a series of catastrophic events, including natural disasters and divine judgments, culminating in the defeat of evil forces. Though Armageddon refers to a specific geographical location over time, its interpretation has expanded. For many, Armageddon symbolizes the climactic struggle between good and evil, irrespective of the physical location. It's viewed as a spiritual or symbolic battlefield as much as a literal one. In the context of recent developments in Israel, the concept of Armageddon takes on a new layer of relevance. For those who interpret the prophecies literally, the potential rebuilding of the Third Temple and the associated events could set the stage for the prophesied end-times battle. For others, Armageddon serves as a metaphorical reference for the escalating conflicts and crises the world is facing today. However, as with all matters of religious prophecy and interpretation, views on Armageddon vary widely. It is crucial to acknowledge that many believers do not interpret these prophecies literally or do not believe that they predict specific current or future events. Regardless, the concept of Armageddon, its origins, interpretations, and its place in the public consciousness is an essential aspect of the broader discussion on end-times prophecies. Armageddon as a physical and symbolic reference in end-times prophecies. The concept of Armageddon serves a dual purpose in end-times prophecies as both a physical location and a symbolic reference. This duality enriches its interpretation, enabling a diverse range of perspectives across different faiths and cultures. The unfolding events in Israel, especially related to the potential reconstruction of the Third Temple, are prompting renewed discussions around the concept of Armageddon, propelling its significance in the discourse of eschatology. As a physical location, Armageddon refers to the ancient city of Megiddo in northern Israel, a site of numerous historical battles. Its geographical significance is rooted in its strategic position on a major trade route, making it a critical gateway to the rich agricultural lands of the Jezreel Valley. Megiddo's rich history of conflict lends a certain gravitas to the idea of it being the prophesied site of a future climactic battle. Thus, some view the geopolitical developments in the region as possible precursors to the prophesied events in Revelation, giving the location of Armageddon a literal interpretation. Simultaneously, Armageddon serves as a potent symbolic reference to a decisive struggle between good and evil, a cataclysmic confrontation at the end of times. The cataclysms described in Revelation, like massive earthquakes, skies turning dark, and stars falling, are seen metaphorically by many as representing societal, political, or spiritual upheaval. In this way, Armageddon transcends its geographical confines to become an emblem of global or cosmic conflict. The symbolic interpretation also extends to personal spirituality for many believers. Armageddon can represent the personal battles one faces against spiritual evil or temptation in their own lives. In this sense, the fight at Armageddon becomes an internal spiritual struggle, making it a personal metaphor as well. In the context of current events and prophecies surrounding the potential rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, the concept of Armageddon carries both these physical and symbolic connotations. While the site of the temple is not at Megiddo, the ensuing religious and political conflict potentially tied to its construction could metaphorically align with the turmoil associated with Armageddon. At the same time, the physical interpretation maintains the focus on the Middle East as the potential epicenter of end times events. These interpretations are not mutually exclusive, and individuals may lean towards one or the other based on personal beliefs, religious teachings, or cultural perspectives. It is important to remember that these interpretations are diverse and can vary greatly among different religious groups. While some may see current events in Israel as literal fulfillments of prophecy leading to an imminent Armageddon, others may see these events in a more symbolic light, or as not related to prophecy at all. The concept of Armageddon in the discourse of end times prophecies thus remains as complex and multifaceted as the prophecies themselves. The role of modern Israel in global politics and prophecy. Modern Israel's establishment and its role in global politics provide an additional perspective to consider when examining end times prophecies. The rebirth of Israel as a sovereign nation in 1948, after nearly 2,000 years of Jewish diaspora, is viewed by some as a significant prophetic fulfillment. In both the Old and New Testaments of the Bible, there are numerous prophecies that speak to the return of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland. Passages from Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Amos, among others, discuss this return. Similarly, in the New Testament, Jesus speaks in the Gospels of a time when the Jewish people will come back to Jerusalem. The establishment of the State of Israel and the subsequent conflicts and peace treaties in the region have influenced the global political landscape considerably. The tensions surrounding Jerusalem, a city of immense importance to multiple religions, only adds to the complexity of the situation. The ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the geopolitics of the Middle East, and the international discourse surrounding these issues all tie back to prophecies for some observers. The prospect of peace in the Middle East, as elusive as it may seem, is also prophesied in the Scriptures. Some interpret the mention of a 7-year peace treaty in Daniel 9:27 as referring to a future agreement in this region. Israel's potential role in facilitating or obstructing this prophesied peace is a point of discussion and speculation. Its actions and policies are scrutinized not only for their immediate political implications, but also for their possible alignment with or deviation from prophetic predictions. Moreover, the discourse surrounding the reconstruction of the Third Temple, as covered in the previous chapters, is also deeply tied to Israel's contemporary political scenario. The nation's government, policies, and international relations all influence, and are influenced by the push for rebuilding the temple. The exploration of the place of modern Israel in global politics, seen through the lens of prophecy, offers an intriguing intersection of religion, politics, and history. As with all such topics, the interpretations vary vastly among different belief systems, cultures, and individuals. The events unfolding in real time continue to feed into this fascinating and complex dialogue about prophecy and the potential onset of the end times.